to the Twitter sphere, there is Anthony Davis wearing a shirt that says, "That's all, folks." For some of our viewers who are not familiar with that, that's how Bugs Bunny would end the cartoons back in the day. Griff, do you have any thoughts on this shirt?
And by Space Jam 2, I mean.
Ah, well played.
Foreboding, foreshadowing there.
Ah, very nice. They take on the Warriors tonight, who have the best record in the NBA. You'll see that on League Pass later this evening. Steve Kerr addressed the media before the game.
Well, we want our guys to get a rhythm, the guys who are playing tonight, and we want to be solid. You know, we don't want to turn the ball over. We want to be focused. I'm not expecting Game 7 intensity, but I'm expecting, playoff preparation.
Care to share who will be the starters?
I don't even know yet, honestly. Yeah, I haven't even, because the Kevin thing just came down. He's not feeling well, and so I haven't. Yeah, we got to figure out the combinations.
You know Alvin well. What have you just made of what he's had to deal with this season with front office changes and the Davis situation?
Yeah. This is Alvin's seen it all. At least he thought he had until this year. But he's been in this league a long time, and he's got a great way about him. Everybody loves him. His disposition is such that he rolls with the punches and keeps coaching, keeps doing his job. But this has to be as difficult as anything that he's ever faced. And I feel for him, for sure. We all do.
When he first left to take this job, and even as recently as last year, it seemed like it was going to be a different situation for him here, didn't it? Is it kind of surprising how fast it turned?
No. It's the NBA. This is how it goes. So I count my blessings every day, to be coaching in this organization and this group of guys. But most coaches aren't as fortunate, and the league can be a little crazy, and so much turnover and turmoil, and so it's all part of it. It's kind of what you sign up for.
Danny Ferry's obviously up for the GM job here. What have you kind of seen from him and your time together that kind of has made him such a good guy to lead him?
Well, he grew up in the league. Danny grew up with his father as a GM, and obviously played in the league for many years, and has been a GM in Cleveland. And so he's a really, really bright person and knows the game and knows how to run an organization. And so I don't know what the process is here, how they're going to go about it. I know that Danny would be a great choice.
That's Steve Kerr addressing the media before they take on the Pelicans tonight. Taking a look at Golden State ratings in the postseason over the past 2 years, you see their offensive rating stellar. Defensive rating, not bad, not necessarily great. However, they're going to the playoffs, and they're still the #1 seed in the Western Conference. By the way, no Iguodala tonight, no Clay, and also no KD, just to keep that in mind. But looking at Golden State defensively, is this even really an issue? Because it seems like through all the turmoil that they've had this season, through the ups and downs offensively and defensively, they're still the #1 seed. There's still plenty of games ahead. They lock that seed down. Is the defense even something they need to worry about? Coach, I'll start with you.
You're concerned about it, but I wouldn't say you have to worry about it, because now they're going to start playing for real. Right? They'll turn it up a little bit. They understand that this is where we can't make mistakes. This is where we can't give away games. This is where we can't walk out at the end of the night and say, one of those nights tonight we'll win 4 in a row, starting with the next game. No, they understand that now they have to get back to playing defense. I think that's what Steve was just saying there. It's preparation for the playoffs coming up, and the importance of defending has always been one of the key things about them. With their personnel, they're going to put points on the board. Okay. Every once in a while, a team like that runs into a night where 4 or 5 of the guys don't make shots on a given night, and then an opponent might have a chance of beating them. Otherwise, you better score enough points to beat them, and when their defense locks in, then it's a different story.
I think it's a concern only insofar as in the past, when you see those numbers and you sort of track it, the one thing that you can unequivocally identify is just lack of interest in the regular season. The only thing that marks success for that franchise at this point is winning championships. And so I think they spend the vast majority of the regular season, because their turnaround time is so short, playing into the finals year after year, playing deep into the finals year after year, and winning titles and having a parade 3 out of 4 times. You're talking about a team that coasts through the regular season often, where I think this season's slightly different. They don't have David West in this iteration of this team. They don't have JaVale McGee. Those were very efficient defensive players for them. And Boogie Cousins is not the same defensive piece. Losing Damian Jones earlier this year took away both vertical spacing offensively and somebody defensively who was a plus for them. So I think they're a slightly different version of themselves. And what that means is Kevin Durant has to be the version of himself defensively that is their best rim protector, and he has been that. Those numbers when you go to number 1 in the playoffs, that's because KD is a menace defensively. Draymond Green is a menace defensively in the playoffs. They're trying to get to that point. So I think there's no question their best defense is in front of them for this season.
Let's talk about Cleveland's last year that LeBron was there. They were horrendous at the defensive end of the floor for the regular season, the entire regular season.
Which might be kind, Coach. That's
I can't think of a worse word, okay? But what happened when they got to the playoff? After all the changes, after everything that took place, the last minute to try and put that roster together, they go back to the NBA Finals once again, and all of a sudden their defense wasn't as bad as it was because of the tempo of the playoffs and how playoff games are played as compared to regular season games.
And sweep a Toronto team that was one of the better defensive teams in the league in the course of making it to the finals.
And, of course, the coach of the year is Ja.
So flipping the switch like they did when LeBron was there on the defensive end worked. And this Golden State team has far more depth of defensive talent than we were able to put together in Cleveland.
You mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers not necessarily in the playoff race this year, but taking a look at the Eastern Conference, things are still jumbled when you go seeds 6 through 10. And here's an update right now. You see the score. It is a little to a lot. The Grizzlies are up. Holiday about to make something happen. He has 6 points in the game. Draining that right there. The Grizzlies winning by a sizable margin on the road. Taking a look at the box score.
So, Coach, you've experienced this, I'm sure. How much harder is it for Dwayne Casey to play this game as the hunted? And how much easier is it for J.B. Bickerstaff to take his team into this situation as the hunter?
Look, there's no question the amount of pressure on Detroit. I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how does this happen? In such an important game in your own building, how does this game wind up being what it is right now? Because Memphis comes in and what are they playing for? Okay, they have nothing at stake here other than let's go out and compete tonight. Let's knock these guys out of the playoffs. That's what we want to do. Don't let them get in. Don't let this be a happy night for them. Make it a sad night. Make them have to come back another night. And I'm looking at the Detroit end of it saying, like, I wonder what's going on in their heads. What were they thinking about going out on the floor? They thinking that Memphis was going to lay down for them tonight?
Well, just to give everybody an update, just in case you're not familiar. So Detroit, they can clinch with a win. However, they keep the playoff hopes of the Charlotte Hornets and the Miami Heat alive with a loss. So when we look at Blake Griffin, we've seen the impact that he's had on the floor. Very effective. Is managed to transform his game in a sense, being able to knock down threes. But we see that they struggle only 1 in 5 when he doesn't play. So when he's hobbled, how does it affect this Detroit team? How does it impact them negatively?
Well, first of all, let's establish the fact that this is not a great Detroit team. Now, they have a couple players. Drummond's having a terrific year when you look at numbers, at his rebounding and his improvement, even at the foul line, okay? But Griffin, early in the year, when they were playing well, Blake was playing at a different level, his total game. Now, whether it's injuries, whether he's hurt, whether it's the wear and tear of what he's gone through to get to this point, they are not the same team. And this was a fragile team to start out with. You know, Stan Van Gundy did an excellent job coaching this Detroit team, and they didn't make the playoffs a year ago. So here comes the coach of the year in to take over, and early on it looked great. But the NBA is a long season, 82 games. So what you look like after 30 or 40 games may not necessarily be what you are at the end of the season.
I think one of the reasons that they struggle so mightily in the absence of Blake Griffin is because a la Denver, who uses Jokic to be their main playmaker because they don't really have a guard that can set the table for everybody else in the same way. This Detroit team really doesn't have anyone other than Ish Smith that makes plays for other people as a staple of their game. Drummond himself has been a very good passing big this year. He's had a very good season in that way. But when Blake is not 100% and not himself, there's way too much asked of players to create that don't have the ability. And so Stan Van Gundy was obviously part of that roster, and Dwayne Casey is obviously part of that and dealing with that roster as well. It's complicated to win, as you know, Coach, without a true point guard.
Guards, look, if you're picking first and there's a great big man, you take the great big man. But if he's not, find that great guard, because he'll have the ball in his hands an awful lot.
Speaking about great guards that have the ball in his hand at all times, D. Wade still gets paid. 8 minutes, 8 points, 1 assist, getting buckets up early in the first quarter, early and often, taking them down to the blocking. How about the footwork on that, Griff?
Well, he was actually trying to guard him.
Ah, you're right. We got more game time, more D. Wade, more Dirk. Stick around.